The reason why I don't necessarily suggest it is because if you block this instance out, let's look at what you'd lose. You'd lose, give or take, about this much drive gauge if they went for standing heavy punch. If they went for throw, you would lose about this much health. And realistically, this is not like a gamble that you want to take, because at the end of the day, now you've given him the opportunity to take, give or take, about this much, which brings you that much closer to dying, right? So instead of just cutting it out, cutting your losses at, say, just a throw here, now you've taken the whole big boy damage of this just because you wanted to avoid this. Had you blocked out the situation, you would have been perfectly fine. But these are the types of risk reward situations that you want to be aware of. Okay, instance number 1. We're in neutral here and everything's kind of cool, but then we kind of send it with H spin. Now the reason why we don't want to go ahead and do this is because number 1, H spin has a lot of startup. Obviously, I'm aware that you want to get the plus frames while simultaneously skipping neutral in this manner, right? However, in these cases, instead of trying to commit to something like this, we can opt for a less committal option, like, say, after this, right? Either a command space where we are controlling essentially this box right here, which is about your range, a little bit further if you were thinking like standing heavy punch range, but command this space in a way where they can't approach very easily as opposed to full sending it. That way, if your opponent at some point decides to, say, just drive rush at you and enter your space, you're prepared to stop him. Now, the options that you can use are your crouching medium kick, right? Your crouching medium kick will stop them from trying to approach. Your standing heavy punch, if you have enough time, or your stand light kick can all stop the approach that they're trying to go for. But the key is that when you hold your space here, you're prepared to react to something. Because if you are able to react to that, now you can get a whip punish, and not to mention get your party started from there. And if you're able to get your party started, then you're a lot scarier, right? And then we can enforce a guess and whatever have you. Okay, so there are 2 ways in which you can mash out of a situation, right? There's ones where you feel like your opponent is going to go for a button or something, right? Where we go for a counter hit type confirm. And in these cases, if we're going for a counter hit type confirm, then we want to use something like crouching medium kick into crouching medium punch, because on counter hit it works. Now in this case, you went for this route, right? You went for the crouching medium mash, right? Which is perfectly fine as well, right? Until we get to a certain point where we need to start using better routes. But if we're gonna go for this route, this should be ideally the one you're going for if you're gonna go this route. Okay, so we gotta know our frame data here, right? Knowing our frame data is our power. Cool. After this, yes, you are safe, but you cannot press a button afterwards, okay? The reason why throw will not be successful here is because you're not plus, right? And because you're not plus, in fact, you're like just barely safe off of this instance, because you're in that situation, your opponent is going to take their turn 9 times out of 10. Now that you're in this situation, it is not advised for you to go for throw. If you're +1, although throw is not technically real, you can go for throw when you're +1, because your opponent knows that you are plus, so they're less likely to try and press. But if you are -3, obviously they're going to want to take their turn that they're due because you chose a decision like this. At that, I would like to go into a little bit more of a better option after throw, right? After throw, we have a decent amount of meter. So whatever we want to do, we can just crouching jab into whatever pressure we want to, right? Or alternatively, we can go for crouching heavy punch, All right, drive rush, crushing heavy punch, make ourselves +5 in their face, and then go for an option like that. So if you clicked on this video, I'm sure you need some help. Lord knows I did at some point. But here's the thing, you want your favorite content creators to come and help you, but let's be real, they're charging like $60 per hour. You don't need that, but when I got you good. Over on this channel, I do free coaching sessions on Tuesdays and on Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. EST. So what does that look like? I essentially go over your matches. I give you tools so that you can succeed the next time you open up ranked. So once again, join my Discord. Wait till I'm live either on Tuesdays or on Thursdays 6:30 p.m. EST. Be there or be square. Back to the video. Okay, so one thing we need to note is that when an opponent dashes at us, we have to know the fact that when an opponent double dashes, especially on a not double dash setup, you can check them, right? We want to make sure that when we're put in these situations that you see him trying to approach like that, right? If we see him try to approach, we at least try to check him with some sort of normal, because we don't want him approaching us for free. At the very least, I'm not asking you to confirm everything, right? I'm not asking you to do that, to be able to hit confirm the situation, right? I'm not asking that, but at the very least, check him, right? If you see him pulling up on you too crazy, then at least put out a button. That way, if they try to do anything fake, which we know double dash in after back throw is fake, we want to make sure that we're at the very least, we're putting something out there. That way, in the case that it is fake, which in this case it is, we check them for it. We don't want them getting into our space like this. We don't want them here for free. Once again, we're in a situation here where the round starts, right? He goes for a crouch jab, standing, or a neutral jump, which is weird in and of itself, by the way, if we didn't know. The option we choose after that is forward jump. Forward jump, heavy punch, okay? After seeing what he did. In this case, I wouldn't take the jump here just because this is just going to cause a very awkward scenario where if the opponent is just chilling on the ground, let's suppose he didn't do forward dash off of this instance, he's just kind of like chilling and ready to go for an anti-air. So then now, you just get anti-air, and now you have to hold pressure, right? That's why going for neutral jump here, or going for forward jump off of his neutral jump option, is not the best, because he's just going to choose an option and then you're just going to get it. Fortunately, this guy's a diamond, but we want to prepare ourselves for the types of things that we'll see in the future, right? We don't want to just try and beat our opponent. We're trying to prep you so that as you go along, you're prepared for different scenarios. So I'm not going to ask you to be like, let's say, prepared to do stand jab and then also simultaneously be prepared to anti-air off of this instance. I'm not going to ask you to do that because that's very hard, and a lot of even masters folks can't even do that, right? So what I do ask at the very least is that if you whiff the jab off of this instance, at least try and press parry. Reason being is because if by any chance you happen to be successful in this instance, then you get a lot of value out of it, right? But at the very least, we're keeping ourselves safe, and then now we're back in the neutral, and then we can force a guess off of that situation, right? It'll keep us safe as opposed to letting it rip, going for a stand jab and then immediately blocking the situation without trying the perfect parry. Granted, if he goes for empty jump throw, you will be vulnerable to a punish counter throw, but these are the types of guesses that you're going to have to make. A lot of your opponents are going to simply just autopilot it because they're going to try and jump shimmy you, at least at this rank. And even when you get into like 1500s, and if you ever descend to the 1400 elo, you're gonna see a lot of that as well, right? Now, you went for drive reversal off of this instance. The reason why I don't necessarily suggest it is because off of this instance, as if you block this instance out, let's look at what you'd lose. You'd lose, give or take, about this much drive gauge if they went for standing heavy punch. If they went for throw, you would lose about this much health, right? And realistically, this is not like a gamble that you want to take, because at the end of the day, now you've given him the opportunity to take, give or take, about this much, which brings you that much closer to dying, right? So instead of just cutting it out, cutting your losses at, say, just a throw here, now you've taken the whole big boy damage of this just because you wanted to avoid this, right? Had you blocked out the situation, you would have been perfectly fine. But these are the types of risk reward situations that you want to be aware of, because if you're taking too much risk, too much dip on your chip, then now you're forcing a situation where you're uncomfortable, and now you're closer to death. And on top of which, you didn't blow them back and you didn't succeed in anything. Another option we need you to start using, I don't know what it is, y'all are scared to use it, just use normal dive kick while you're out here, right? Well, if you use normal dive kick out here, then we get us the party started. Sometimes obviously you want to use other options or whatever have you, like sometimes you might want to use other options, right, to get your dive kick. But we don't want to be leaving it off the table, because it's such a good tool to get your offense started and to also push them towards the corner. We want to force them into a situation where they're like, okay, now I have to guess. I have to be super mindful of dive kick, and now that I'm super mindful of dive kick, this option becomes that much stronger, where you go for raw drive rush, right? Those type of options become more scary, right? Eventually we'll have you to the point where now you're going for whiff punishes off of certain instances so that you can start your game from there, right? Those are going to be the difference maker. But for now, I want you to start working on using your dive kick a little bit more often, right? If you feel a little bit weird about the range, just use EX, because EX will cover up the weaknesses. If you use EX, even if you do it at like a really high point, it's really hard to get a bad exchange on block. And if you're successful in pretty much every high, you'll get a stand jab, and then you can whatever. So this one that I'm going to show you right here is another one of the options that you're going to have to be a little bit more aware of, right? Especially at the rank that you're at, a lot of your opponents are going to want to try and skip neutral. So in these cases where your opponent wants to skip neutral, right, just know that like a Dragon Lash is coming at some point. Just know that it's coming, right? Let's say we can't react to it comfortably, right? What can we do? We can try using stand jab to catch it out, right? That way we can catch our opponent lacking if they decide to go for an option like that, right? It'll give us a lot of value in the case that like you're unsure of whether this will hit, or you were low on drive gauge or whatever have you, right? Whatever is going on with you, if you feel like you can't react well, this is also an option for you, because your stand jab is very good for something like that, right? Just don't let them get away with an option like that. And I'm fairly certain you can do like some extraness as well. Like, you can go for something extra, I'm sure you can, but again, if you just want the very simple and clean version of it, you want to go for an option like that. So let's talk about corner defense in these situations against Ken. Okay, he goes for a situation here. You don't press anything, you're just blocking the situation. I have zero issue with you just blocking, but then the follow-up is what's important here, right? You just block out the entire situation. You try to go for a drive reversal again, which didn't work out the last time. But if I'm in this situation, right, you get hit because you mashed on plus frames, which we shouldn't mash on plus frames, throwing that out there. Okay, after this instance, you get knocked down, right? If I'm blocking, if I see him jump, I'm going to go for an anti-air, right? That is going to be my key point. That's going to make the difference. Okay, if I'm sitting here and just blocking out a situation, the only thing that you're not going to do on me is you're not going to try and jump shimmy me for free, right? Now, if you decide to go for a delayed normal where you go for like a low forward or something, now I can understand what happened in that situation. But if this is the case where if they're going for a jump shimmy, the options that we want to be looking for off of this instance is them going for just a normal where they just attack you straight on, If they decide to jump up, right, in this case, then we're ready to anti-air them, right? Now, if they decide to walk back and use a normal, in these cases, we can use delay low forward, right? If we use delay low forward, we can blow up their attempt to try and kill us by walking back. Now, when they're going for walk up throw, you're gonna get hit by throw, right? But at some point, you have to have faith. At some point, they're going to go for either like walk back, or they're going to go for an anti-air because they want to kill you. Some opponents will just straight throw loop you, which is where we see all the famous clips of people getting throw looped and whatever have you. Okay, so this is a good example, okay? After this, he goes for throw. He knocks you down, right? He tries to bait something, bait another drive reversal possibly, right? And he just walks back. So off of this instance here, right? You get thrown, you get a hard knockdown. But if you go for a delay normal, oh no. Oh no, now we're out the situation, now we're out the corner in mid-screen, and now we can essentially apply pressure to them. So at the end of this, there are two instances that really get you killed. And the first, well, it's the same theme, but we have to take a note of this, is the fact that you're not respecting plus frames, okay? He does stand like kick, right? He doesn't hit confirm it. He goes for a crouching medium punch, right? After the drive rush crouching medium punch, you need to remember the fact that drive rush normals, right? They add extra plus frames to them. So meaning if they go for an option like this, right, you have to respect it just simply off the premise that it was a drive rush button, right? Off of this instance, he's +4. Now that he's +4, if he presses a 6-frame button, you need a 2-frame button to at least trade with this normal, which obviously 2-frame button normals do not exist. So you would have to use a either a reversal of some sort with that's either super or DP or something like to that extent, right? You would either have to use one of those options or just simply respect it with either parry or just block it out altogether. But trying to press on this instance is getting you blown up a lot more than you would think, just because you're not respecting plus frames nearly enough. The last instance comes from right here, where he goes for H Dragon Lash, okay? We already talked about the counters to that, whatever woody woo. You can also DP it on reaction, but I'm not gonna expect the D2 to react to this, okay? Off of this instance, you have to note the fact that off of this, he's +1, and if he's +1, you cannot try and press, especially when you only have a jab's worth of health left. And in those instances, you're just going to trade and get killed for it anyway. So in these instances, we want to be a little bit more smart with it, possibly choose parry, EXDP, a different option, just so that we're not causing a trade because you do not have enough health to trade. With that being said, any questions?